Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Arsana. Good morning, Dipesh, Teju, Praveen. Good morning, Raman, Rivaz, Ronim. Welcome, everyone, to today's session. So, before we start our core content, let me a little bit take you towards what is happening around, and till then, other friends will also join. That's right. Yesterday again, Nipsey broke all-time record. And you must know like what is happening around economy in the country as well, or what was the region of yesterday's all-time high. For those of you who do not know, Nipsey gained 51 points, and it was one of the biggest surge after a long time. For you can see that. See, after this graph, right, of the Nipsey, it was a huge surge, right, and after this one, and after certain I think up to 17 days, it was a big surge, and it was surge of 51 points. And now, yes, it has. The result is that it has increased, right? But what might be the reason? The reason is this: Ministry of Finance unveils white paper on national economy, highlights need to cultivate financial discipline amongst economic entities. Now, white paper was positive regarding capital market, and that is the reason. And let me read it out for you. Here is the original document as well. Let me send you the link of this for you if you want to go through on your own. Okay, so I've shared in chat box as well if you want to scroll on your own screen. Okay, so let me read it out for you. The Ministry of Finance has unveiled a white paper, an informational document to showcase the real picture. Now, you see what is white paper? It's an informational document, and it is released every year, right, to showcase the real picture of nation's economy. Finance Minister Janardhan Sharma submitted the economic white paper in Parliament. Ministry of Finance Janardhan Sharma has said that his announcement to release a white paper on the country's economy to share the real status of the economy to the citizens had created unnecessary havoc among a section of people. Now it is targeted towards its negative factions. I want to break the conventional fashion of accusing others while releasing the white paper. This is not a step to exhibit arrogance about how this is politics. I just want to show the real picture when I assume my responsibility, Minister said. Similarly, he had expressed his firm commitment not to compromise on the issue of transparency. The white paper mentions that while government has set the target at an 8.5% economic growth, seems ambitious. Our fingers are crossed. Let us see. In the fiscal year 2076-77, the real figure had turned out to be negative 2.1. Target was 8.5, but it came out as to be negative 2.1. It is mentioned that not much improvement has been seen in the fiscal year 77-78, all because of coronavirus. We all know that, and lockdowns and all. The bloat in the budget hasn't been justified by the budget investment ability, the white paper states. Furthermore, there seems to be a lack of financial discipline in government bodies. Now it is criticizing previous government in relation to the Nepal's capital market. Now this is the most important part for us as an investor. In relation to Nepal's capital market, the white paper has highlighted the excessive imbalance between financial institutions and production-based companies. Now, it means that you know that in Nepal there are not much of manufacturing companies and production companies in Nipsey as well. There are a lot of banks, like 28 banks, financial development banks and financial institutions, even microfinance, right? All class of banks, ABCD, and there are insurance companies, life and non-life. There are a lot of hydropowers, right? Amongst production sector, there is hydropower. Hydropower can be considered as production sector. And apart from that, there are not much of manufacturing sector. Since many of companies like Norweg International Hospital and this home, these are under the pipeline, and these are considered as productive sector. So the highlight of white paper is also the fact that now there is excessive imbalance, and we have to bring production-based companies. Real economy as a term, and the white paper has stated the need to reform capital market to one that is disciplined, transparent, technology-centric, accountable, and the necessity to establish a healthy platform with access to retail investor. So unlike previous government, I would say previous to previous government, it is not like despising like NEPSI is going up. It's not healthy. It's not good for reflecting real economy. So I think it was taken positively by investors, and yes, because of which NEPSI went up. And things to watch, monetary policy is also coming up, and monetary policy is generally for governing banks and financial institutions, but it will also consider some things which will affect other sectors as well. So that is another big point which we must consider while investing. So this document is going to affect every entity. So if you want to go through it, there are 19 pages, you can go to it. It's in Nepali. It must be difficult for many of you to understand in Nepali language, but still we have to definitely make our Nepali also strong, right? You can go through it. There is source as well. Okay, so any question regarding white paper? Its effect, you can see NEPSI went up, and it went up by 51 point, and you can see that banks, hydropower and finance, so class ABC are increasing, increased yesterday it by 8 point, 6 point, and 1 point. So that was the effect of white paper. So anything you want to ask or you want to add?
No, sir.
Okay, so then let me start attendance. Okay, one thing I really want to show you, another one portion is very interesting content. What is the effect of irrationality of investor? This is one classic example. You see, दोस्रो बजारमा 600 रुपैयाँमा भन्दा बढी भएको शेयर कारोबार भइरहेको कम्पनी EPS earning per share is 4 paisa, not 4 rupees, it's 4 paisa. Okay, so you can see the details of this company, right? This company's name is Himalayan Urja Vikas Company Limited. Okay, its revenue is 0, no revenue at all. Profit is 379, I think it's in thousand, yeah, 379,000, 3,79,000, right? It has decreased by 91%, and its EPS has decreased from 0.46. It was minimal, but it has decreased to 0.04. If you buy one share of it, you are going to get earning of 4 paisa worth of one share. So net worth per share is 99, and its price earning ratio, it is costlier by 9,388 times. And it's do you know what is the share price of this latest share price of this share? 600, more than 600 rupees. So if you are not prudent, if you do not know finance, right, these things definitely happens. We can see a lot of irrationality in market. Okay, so let us do attendance and let us move on to our core content. Alex? Present. Archana?
Present, sir.
Okay. Ashish? Present. Dipesh? Present. Evan?
Present, sir.
Present. Jeju? Are you, Jeju, are you ready for today's revision?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Present. Marina? Present. Ninju. Present. Nissan. Nissan Sreshta. Absent. Ojasvi. Present. Prakriti. Present. Prasamsa. Present. Praveen. Present. Raman. Present. Ratnaprabha. Ratnaprabha. Present. Revision.
Present, sir.
Present. Ritish. Ritish Kumar. Absent. Rivaj. Present. Ronin. Present. Satyam. Satyam Srashta. Absent. Salina. Present. Sarisma. Sarisma. Absent. Shekhar. Present. Smith. Present. Swarup. Present. Eunice. Eunice Giri. Absent. So let me call the name. I'll call the name of absentees, and if you are there, please let me know. Nissan Srashta absent. Nissan Srashta absent. Ritish Kumar absent. Ritish Kumar absent. Satyam Srashta absent. Okay, Satyam present. Sarisma Silval absent. Sarisma Silval absent. And finally, Eunice Giri absent. Eunice Giri absent. Okay, so it is a time for revision. Jeji, you have got 1 to 5 minutes, so you can reiterate in your own words what did we learn in the last class. So over to you, Jeju. I hand over the floor to you.
Yes, sir. We started with capital structure about how fixed cost affects business and about term break-even. Uh, to reach a break-even, what is the minimum sales the business has to do, which was proved the last time by taking two different examples, being Plan A and Plan B, where fixed cost was 25,000 and 70,000 respectively. As we increase fixed costs, we understood that our risk also increases, which means break-even point also increases. So operating leverage, which is fixed cost affects business risk. We plotted this in graph uh, where everything apart from variable costs and fixed costs were same, which includes investor capital, tax rate, and price. We assume the level of demand being terrible, poor, normal, good, and wonderful. Uh, we find ROIC, which stands for return of invested capital, through this. We learn to calculate average, from which we get the standard deviation and coefficient of variation. And we also talked about the units to be sold to reach the break-even points in different scenarios. The conclusion of business risk, with a since Plan B had a higher fixed cost, it is more riskier. The airlines, steel mills, companies, etc., have the have to procure huge investments, which makes it have high fixed costs. Grocery stores and service business, on the other hand, has lower fixed costs, which makes it have lower operating leverage. We also talked about financial risk. As we increase our as we increase our debt, we are increasing our debt capital structure. We also talked about how EPS increases with the increase of debt, but only to a certain level. Finally, we learned about determining the optimal capital structure as it being the one that maximizes the price of the firm stock generally. The price of the firm's stock generally only for debt capital ratio. Um, that's about it.
Wonderful job, Jeju. Thank you so much. Big round of applause for Jeju. Thank you for that thorough revision. And please nominate someone for tomorrow's revision.
Uh, I would say Sarishma.
I think she is not there.
No.
Sarishma is not present, Jeju. Can you recommend another name?
Hmm, uh,
You can choose anyone who have not yet revised.
Sorry, man.
Okay, Sarina. Salina, please accept your. No, Salina has already done. Salina was fourth reviser. So for your convenience, let me give you the list. Apart from them, you can.
Um,
Excuse me. Yes, Teju.
huh?
Oh,
Soru. Soru.
I did not get you. Sorup?
So Soru.
Sorup? Okay, Sorup, please accept your revision. Nominate.
Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you. So let me write down your name in Gurustro. Thank you again. Now, thank you, Jeju, for revision, and thank you, Sorup, for accepting the nomination. Now, I'd like to request Jeju, which one was the last slide we're discussing? Let me display you first. So we have discussed business risk, right? Discussed this slide and financial risk as well. Did we go through this slide, Jeju? Points to
Yes,
remember?
yes, sir.
Yes. So next
Yes,
one, I
sir.
think we discussed this as well, right?
Yes, sir.
Did we discuss
It
these?
was
Okay.
no, sir.
So didn't we discuss this?
I don't think so.
Okay. So someone please affirm. The slide number as well. Okay, so if not, then let me revise. I think we were here. Okay, so let me start with from slide 15. Okay, determining the optimal capital structure. We saw in the previous figure that expected EPS of Ace Education is maximum at debt equity 50%. Does that mean it's optimal capital structure for 50%? Outstanding? No, it's not. Why? Because the increment in risk, from here you can see that your expected EPS has increased from its highest in 50, right? When debt equity ratio is 50, the EPS is based when it's 50% debt and 50% equity, right? But one point you can observe is that in 40% in the case of 40% debt and 60% capital, its expected EPS is 2.54, which is much lower, which is lower than 2.74, but the risk associated along with the return is much more lower than the proportion of return which is there. So we have risk of just 4.94, right, in case of 40%, but it has rocketed in the case of 50. It's 5.93, right? So as it has increased to a much bigger fold in terms of risk, our ideal optimal capital structure is not 50, but it's 40%. The optimal capital structure is one that maximizes the price. So plainly we cannot find, right? Plainly we cannot find like this. Plainly how much difference is there in risk and what is that risk and return proportion? How much return can be trade off with how much percentage of risk? That point we cannot calculate. So what do? We try to find change in its weighted average cost of capital and finalize which debt structure to choose, or we try to find share price and try to finalize which structure to choose. Correct? So we'll do that in upcoming slide. Higher EPS is more than offset by corresponding increase in risk. Even EPS is raised while we increase our debt portion from 40 to 50 because of increment in risk. Proportion of increment of risk was much higher in 50%. So we want to settle down in 40%. Our aim is to increase stock price. Our aim is to increase stock price, stock value, whatever you call it, right? Stock price, if you multiply stock price with quantity, then you get stock value. Usually we tell not price, but we tell, we want to increase shareholders value. As it turns, structure that maximizes the stock price also minimizes the weighted average cost of capital. Now you can see that if any project, if there is a company, for an example, if Arun Kavale Hydro project, AKPL, Arun Kavale Hydro project, they started wind energy mill outside Kathmandu Valley, and they are destined to start its running through from upcoming Kartik month, right? And if that is the case, and if for establishment of this capital, right, their WACC, weighted average cost of capital, is lower, their access to capital is much low, then there are chances that its share price is going to increase. Why? Because this project is going to bring a lot of profitability. As EPS will increase, definitely stock price is going to increase. So that is the correlation. So weighted average cost of capital is lower in terms of finances, maybe whenever we get fund from equity or debt. Okay, whenever we get cost from whenever we get our funds from equity, funds from debt, in both cases, if our cost is low, then generally it increases profitability of the project, and in turn it definitely increases the share price. Correct? So WACC might be one of the good and convenient way to find required ideal optimal capital structure. So as it turns, structure that maximizes the stock price, the one which maximizes the stock price also minimizes weighted average cost of capital. At times it is easier to predict how capital structure change will affect WACC. We can predict if we keep 40% capital, if we keep 50% capital, according to the capital, we can gauge that how much WACC we are going to incur in both cases. But we cannot gauge. If we change the capital structure from 40 to 50%, we cannot by certain find out how much stock price is going to change by change of this debt structure. So what do we do? Like A is equal to B is equal to C. Our goal is to reach to C, means share price. What we do? We know that if weighted average cost of capital B, we know that if B weighted average cost of capital is lower, share price is always higher. So what do we do? We choose that A, means capital structure. We choose that capital structure which minimizes B, in turn which increases C, that is share price. Therefore, many managers use WCC to guide their capital structure decision. Any confusion in this? This is the formula. WCC means this is weight of equity. R of equity, you can write C as whichever you want. So weight means W of equity, and R means return of equity. So no, R means cost of equity. Okay. So plus weight of debt, R means cost of debt. So 1 minus tax. We know that debt gives us tax benefit. Along with it also brings bankruptcy risk. We know that, right? So 1 minus tax is only for debt. Why there is no 1 minus tax for here? For the equity portion. Why there is no 1 minus tax? Because dividend is not tax deductible. Dividend doesn't help us. Dividend or borrowing money from equity holders doesn't help us to reduce our expenditure. This cost must be reduced by tax portion, isn't it? Because we are going to get that advantage, correct? So that is why 1 minus tax portion or tax portion is going to be deducted from the debt side, cost of debt. So our total weight is debt plus equity, cost of debt plus cost of equity, right? This is called total cost, right? Weighted average cost of capital is total cost of capital structure. So any confusion in this slide? It's very important. If not, let me move on. Shall I move to next slide if no confusion?
So 1 minute. Okay, sir.
Yes, thank you. Okay, now this gets a little bit complicated. Please now take proper attention to this. Now we have been changing debt from zero. This is the case. First instance is the case where we have 100% equity, right? 100% equity, no debt at all. Now we are gradually increasing debt, right? Like previous example. What I try to do usually is that I try to bring one example, and that example covers all the concepts so that it will be easier for us to understand inputs. Okay, so these are different kinds of cases. In the first case, our debt is zero. Second is 10% debt, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. And if you ask us, or what is the equity portion in these cases? Definitely, here is 100%, 100 minus 10, 90, 100 minus 20, 80% equity, 30, 100 minus 30, 70%. Likewise, you can go further down. So next portion, debt by equity. This is the ratio between debt divided by equity. For example, 0 divided by 100 is 0. 10 divided by 90 is, in second case, 11.11, right? So likewise, you simply calculate debt divided by equity. Third one, we calculate cost of debt. What is the cost of debt? Now interest rate given is 5.8%. So what you will do, 5.8, 1 minus tax means 0. What is the tax rate here? Why this slide is a little bit distorted? Slide number 16. Okay. Okay, our tax is 40%. Is it 40%? So let me confirm. Someone help me out as well. Our rate is 5.8%, 5.8. And what happens if you multiply it by 0.6? 3. No, I think it's not 0.6. Our tax is 40%. Okay, tax is 40%. And if you multiply 5.8 is equal to 5.8 multiplied by 0.6 multiplied by 0.4, so let me come back to it after a while. So our expected EPS in the first case, I think we have already found the EPS from here, right? EPS, we have already given the data for EPS. So 1.8, 1.95, we got this data and we have input here. 1.8, 1.95, 2.12, 2.31, and likewise. Estimated beta, our estimated beta is this in these particular cases, correct? And our R, this is CAPM. We have already calculated CAPM theory. By applying this formula, we calculate required return for equity. RS means required return for equity, and these are required returns. And how these things are calculated, you can see down below, right? And then estimated price, we can find estimated price by the formula. First of all, P0, price of 0 is equal to DPS. We have given here, right? 1.8. 1.8 is earning per share or dividend per share. It's same. Why? Because your earning, all the earning is going to go to equity holders in the first case, isn't it? There are no any interest holders. So in the first case, what happens? You have to dividend per share is 1.8. Did you get it? I hope you got it. 1.8, and you divide it by how much? Divided by required return 0.9. So this is 9%, right? Your required return is 0.09. We have understood the formula in risk and return, right? Dividend divided by return is equal to price, right? So the price is $20 in the first case, and likewise we calculate all the other price. So resulting PE ratio, what is price earning ratio? We have the price, we have the earning, right? And we get our PE ratio. And then finally our weighted average cost of capital. So if we calculate WACC, like what is the formula for WACC? The formula is here, right? So this is the formula. So if we calculate WD, what is the weight of D? Return for D is 2.4, right? This return is 2.4. Tax is 1 minus tax. I think it's all complete. RD 1 minus tax is 2.4, and if you multiply that whole with weight, means 0.4, right? Like this. Here it's given 0.4 multiplied by 5.8 into 0.6, right? And then again you let me write it down. 0.4 multiplied by 5.8% and multiply by 0.6%. This is 0.4 is weight of debt, right? We are calculating for this portion 40%. So for this 40%, what is the weight? Weight is 0.4. What is the percentage? Debt equity percentage. It's 5.8% is the cost for debt. And what is the weight of debt? Is 1 minus tax. What is 1 minus tax? Tax is 40%, so it's 0.6. So if you add with what? Add with 0.6 means portion of equity. And what is the required return for equity? It's 11.4, isn't it? 11.4. So if you calculate these all, this is return for equity, this is weight of equity, this is 1 minus tax, this is 5.8 is return for debt, and this is weight for debt. And if you calculate all, you get your answer 8.23. If not, then you can try on your own 8.23%. So did you understand this, or do you have any confusion? So here you can see that from 9 you can the cost is reducing down, the weighted average cost of capital is going down and down, and at what point it becomes lowest. In 40 at 40 it gets lowest as 8.23. 8.23 is the lowest weighted average cost of capital. So if the cost is low, we can understand that at that point the price will definitely be huge. Price will be definitely higher than other portions. So in this structure, in the structure of 40% debt and 60% equity, that is our optimal capital mix. Why? Because our weighted average cost of capital is lowest. Please understand this. If these questions will be definitely, I think it will be asked in exam. So if you have any confusion, please let me know in this slide. Did you get it at one go?
A little confused.
On what part, Archana? Shall I revise all, or there is some specific part you did not understand?
Sir, I think you should revise all.
All okay. So
I
okay, let
didn't
me.
understand from the start, so
Okay. So let me again revise. Yeah, definitely it's a little bit complicated. So this is the formula for weighted average cost of capital. Okay. So what is the cost of fund? This WCC also called, what is the cost of fund? Okay, cost of fund. So what is the cost of fund? Means cost of equity and cost of debt, right? Cost of equity and cost of debt, isn't it? How much from market, how much, at what cost you can bring debt, at what cost you can bring equity, isn't it? These are addition of these two. Weighted average cost of capital means that. Now formula for weighted average cost of capital means WACC means WD, weight of D. If in this case you can see there is a weight of debt and equity, how much portion there is equity, how much portion there is equity, and how much there is debt. For an example, in this case you are in the 40%, this is 40% debt, 40% debt and plus 60% equity, isn't it? Equity, this particular case. In the case of 20, it's 20% debt, 20% debt and 80% equity, right? Correct, in the 20%. So likewise, we can see, we can easily identify what is the weight. There is no any problem at all for the case of weight, right? It is already given in question. Now what about the return, sir? If you ask me, R means return or required return, return or required return. How much return is required, right? So how much banks, what is the interest rate banks are going to ask? This is the debt, this is the equity, right? For the debt we find interest rate, for the equity we find expected return. How much equity holder want, how much percentage of money they want back from the company, right? So for debt it's interest, for equity it's dividend. So we are given in the question 5.8% is interest rate. If we interest rate is given and it's charged at the rate of 5.8%, right? So that is the cost of fund for debt. If we borrow money from somewhere, the cost of debt is 5.8%. Okay, and if you move on, the required return, we have learned the formula of finding required return. I'll break it up how it has been calculated one by one, but for now return for equity is how much? It's 11.4. So how did it come? Let me know. I'll definitely tell you. I'm going reverse from here, okay? So that you'll again understand. So this is 11.4% given, that is the figure, okay? So in this 11.4%, how are we calculating it? So now we know the return 11.4% of equity. We know the WC, that is 60% in that 40% case. Weight of debt is 40%. We know return of debt 5.8%. Now what is this, sir? What is this 1 minus T? 1 minus tax. 1 minus T means 1 minus tax. We all know that. We have been learning that interest is tax deductible. So interest expenditure, whenever we take loan from banks, we save that portion in tax. Whatever the interest we pay to bank, we can deduct that as an expenditure in our balance and in our profit and loss account. Okay, so because of which our money is saved. पैसा बाहिर गएन भने, पैसाको नजानु भनेको नि हाम्रो बच्यो, पैसा बच्यो भन्ने कुरा भयो। त्यसले त कस्ट घटाउने भयो नि त, बिकज इन्ट्रेस्ट इज ट्याक्स डिडक्टिबल। इन्ट्रेस्टले गर्दा हाम्रो ट्याक्स बच्छ, तर डिभिडेन्डले बच्दैन। डिभिडेन्ड इज नट टेकन, डिभिडेन्ड इज नट कन्सिडर्ड एज ट्याक्स डिडक्टिबल। इट्स नट ट्याक्स डिडक्टिबल एट अल। सो यु क्यानट सी 1 माइनस ट्याक्स हियर। तपाईको कस्ट यो घट्दैन, 1 माइनस ट्याक्स हुँदैन यहाँ, ट्याक्स सेभिङ हुँदैन, यहाँ ट्याक्स सेभिङ हुन्छ। सो किन 1 माइनस ट्याक्स गरेको, त्यही भएर। ओके, किन 1 माइनस ट्याक्स? द्याट अमाउन्ट अफ ट्याक्स पोर्सन यु डु नट ह्याभ टु पे। ट्याक्स पोर्सन कति भयो? फर एक्जाम्पल, इफ इट इज 40%, इट इज 0.4। 1 माइनस 0.4 भनेको जति अमाउन्ट रिमेनिङ हुन्छ, द्याट इज द ओन्ली कस्ट अफ योर्स। सो अप टु हियर, डिड यु अन्डरस्ट्यान्ड?
Yes, sir. Now,
Right?
yeah.
Okay, okay, it's perfect. So WCC तपाईले बुझ्नु भयो भने यो अब अगेन रिभिजन गर्दाखेरि अगेन दिस इज अ वेट फर डेट, दिस इज द वेट फर इक्विटी। यो केसमा 40% मा 40% यहाँ आउँछ डेटमा, इक्विटी WC मा 60% आउँछ, राइट? 40 एन्ड 60 वेट इज डन विथ। के रह्यो अब? रिटर्न। रिटर्नमा के हुन्छ? इन्ट्रेस्ट इन टर्म्स अफ debt holder, because we have to pay interest, right? It's always given 5.8%. It's always given. So RD means 5.8%. It is interest rate. Okay. And WC, sorry, RS भनेको required return from equity investor. Tomorrow, if you are going to invest in Noble's share, you have your own required return. Okay. You have your own required return. So RS means required return for equity holder. So I think you have got it as well. Last concept, why there is 1 minus tax? 1 minus tax because interest is tax deductible. Interest is tax deductible. So यसले पैसा बचाउँछ. It helps us to save our taxes. That amount of money we do not have to pay our taxes. हाम्रो इन्कम बाट घट्छ. So यसमा हुन्छ। सर त्यसमा यता किन भएन? Why there is no 1 minus T tax in equity? Because equity dividend is not tax deductible. कुनै पनि ब्यालेन्स सिटमा you will never find dividend deducted and then after tax is calculated. It never happens. First of all, you deduct tax. मैले भनेको थिएँ नि यो पाई हुन्छ है, अस्तिदेखि एक्सप्लेन गरिरहेको छु नि है। This is the pie. First of all, first piece of pie is taken away by the government, but government takes it after considering interest as well. First the government ले नि लाने हो, सुरुमा पाई भनेको त्यो प्रफिट को गभर्मेन्टले नि लान्छ, ट्याक्सले नि लान्छ, तर इन्ट्रेस्टलाई नि कन्सिडर गर्छ। हो, कन्सिडर गरे इन्ट्रेस्ट भनेको यो 1 माइनस ट्याक्स हो। सो दिस इज, तर डिभिडेन्डलाई कन्सिडर गर्दैन। तिमीहरुकै कम्पनी हो, तिमीहरुलाई किन गर्नु भनेर मान्दैन। सो सेकेन्ड पोर्सन इज फर इन्ट्रेस्ट होल्डर एन्ड थर्ड इज फर इक्विटी होल्डर। सो एन्ड दिज आर द कस्ट अफ डेट, दिस comprises cost of debt, this comprises cost of equity. So if you add cost of debt and equity, you get overall cost of capital. That is called weighted, means weight लगाएको, average, हामीले एभरेज पनि गरेका छौं। cost के को? capital को। name itself is enough, correct? So if you understand this, what do you know? WCC को लागि के चाहियो हामीलाई? अब we go reverse के? RS भनेको we do not know what is the required return each cases. We find this. WCC, we know, no need to find it. WD, no need to find it. We know that. RD, we need to find it, and 1 minus T, we need to find it. So if you see that, what is RD 1 minus T? You can find it easily, right? RD means 5.8, and if you multiply it by weight of debt, and if you deduce the tax, then you get your answer 2.4. Likewise, now what is needed? All the only needed factor for us is RS, means required return of equity. To find required return of equity, we know the CAPM theory, isn't it? What is the theory? CAPM. In the CAPM we studied that RRF means risk-free rate, RRF risk-free rate plus risk premium into beta. It's premium into beta. Beta is given. These two rates are also definitely given in question. Are risk-free rate, and if you know the risk-free rate, then you also tend to know and market risk premium is also given. If these both cases are given, then you can find your answer as 9, 9.4, 9 point, like this. You can have your return. So if you have all the cases, if you know weight, if you know RD and RS, you can find weighted average cost of capital, right? So like weighted average cost of capital, as we start to find in different cases, right? अब यो धेरै डिफ्रेन्ट केसेसमा के हुँदै जान्छ भन्दाखेरि तपाईको वेट चेन्ज हुन्छ नि त, डेटको वेट चेन्ज हुन्छ फर्स्ट केसमा, द वेट अफ डेट एन्ड इक्विटी चेन्जेस एभ्री टाइम, सो योर डब्ल्युसिसी विल अल्सो चेन्ज, इजन्ट इट? सो डब्ल्युसिसी के हुँदैछ, घट्दैछ. सो एट वान पोइन्ट इट इज लोएस्ट एन्ड देन इट स्टार्ट्स टु इन्क्रिज. सो डिड यु गेट इट?
Yes, sir, got it.
Okay, thank you. So this is the point. Now you graph pani hernu la alikati. Let me zoom it. So graph le I think it cements the concept. Okay, you numericals birsincha hai. So this is the point. Required. This is required return on equity, and this is debt portion. As debt portion increases, as we starts to induce more debt in our capital, what happens? This is a risk-free rate. It's constant. We already have seen this graph in the previous classes. Second, premium for business risk. Again, we can do nothing about it. This is also inherent risk which lies there, and remaining portion is premium for financial risk. Financial risk means risk which is imposed by interest cost, right? So what happens as we will increase debt, it has to, the risk for finance, the premium for finance risk also has to increase because we are taking more risk, isn't it? तपाईले डेट एड गर्दै जानु भएको भनेको तपाईले रिस्क बढी हाल्नु भएको, किन? इन्ट्रेस्ट बढी आउँदैछ, किन? इन्ट्रेस्ट बढी आउने बित्तिकै बैंक्रप्सी रिस्क बढिरहेछ हाम्रो कम्पनीमा. हाम्रो कम्पनी जति जति रिस्की हुँदैछ हामीलाई रिक्वायर्ड रिटर्न पनि त चाहियो. व्हाई? हायर द रिस्क हायर द रिटर्न. यो त हाम्रो पुरानै फर्मुला हो, हैन? सो इन दिस केस, as you will increase your debt, as you will start to increase your debt, what your required return, the amount of return you require from your equity must rise. त्यतिपछि मात्रै you are rational investor, otherwise you would never ask for that. So one changes के देख्नु भयो तपाईले भन्दाखेरि, one changes you can see भन्दाखेरि as debt बढिरहेको छ, as debt is increasing, debt portion बढिरहेको हुँदाखेरि अस्ति हामीले पढेको थियो नि एउटा पोइन्टमा चाहिँ तपाईको required return is also increasing. Why? Our risk is increasing. Risk of bankruptcy is increasing. हाम्रो financial risk बढिरहेको छ हरेक मोमेन्टमा डेट हाले पछि, हैन? म्यानेजरहरुको रिस्क बढिरहेको छ. मैले अस्ति एक्जाम्पल दिएको थिएँ नि तपाईहरुलाई, एउटा लास्ट 5 जनाले बोक्ने र 10 जनाले लास्ट बोक्दा फरक हुन्छ भनेर भनेको थिएँ नि. अब 10 जनालाई रिवार्ड पनि बढी, 5 जनालाई रिवार्ड पनि बढी हुन्छ, रिस्क पनि बढी हुन्छ, भार बढी पर्ने भयो नि त कन्दामा. त्यस्तै उनीहरुले बिस्किटहरु बढी खान पाउने भयो, और रिटर्न पनि बढी हुने भयो. सो लाइकवाइज 10 भन्ने बित्तिकै के भयो? डेट 0, इक्विटी कति? 100. 10 भन्ने बित्तिकै 90, 20 भन्ने बित्तिकै 80. हाम्रो इक्विटी होल्डर घटिरहेको छ, हामीले मान्छेलाई घटाइरहेको छौं. 10 बाट वी आर गोइङ टुवर्ड्स 5. त्यो हुने बित्तिकै के हुन्छ? रिटर्न इज अल्सो हाई and our risk is also high. So our required return must be higher in cases where debts is increased, because we buy back our equity holder. हाम्रो इक्विटी होल्डरलाई चाहिँ बाई ब्याक गरेर घटाएर हाम्रो इक्विटी होल्डर चाहिँ कम भइरहेको हुन्छ के. सो इन्ट्रेस्ट इफेक्ट भनेको इक्विटीलाई हेभिली पर्छ, त्यो चाहिँ बुझ्नु है. So that is something we wanted to understand from this portion. So any confusion in this?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let me move to next slide then. So again, now we can see different graphs which are being plotted. One, as debt increases, what happens? Our EPS starts to increase, I know. 50% मा maximum थियो नि हाम्रो EPS. यहाँ पछाडि आफ्नो ग्राफमा हेर्दा यी बढ्यो 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 maximum घट्यो हैन, त्यही हो यसमा नि के छ, बढ्यो 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 debt. This is EPS, okay, in y-axis. So बढ्यो 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 maximum भएर and it had started to decrease. So 50% मा our earning per share is maximum, but our weighted average cost of capital is minimum at 40%. See, it's 8.23%. So EPS, हामीले EPS लाई चाहिँ indicator लिनु हुँदैन, but it gives us hint. EPS ले hint चाहिँ दिँदो रहेछ है. 50 मा maximum EPS हुन्छ भने EPS को वरपर छ भन्ने इन्डिकेसन चाहिँ हामीले पत्ता लगाउन सक्यो. कि त तल हुन्छ कि त माथि. आई थिंक तल हुन्छ, माथि त हुँदै भएन. सो एक स्टेप तल हुन सक्छ EPS maximum भएको केसमा भन्ने हिन्ट चाहिँ भयो, बट वी क्यानट से फर सर्टेन. टु से फर सर्टेन विच इज द आइडियल एन्ड अप्टिमल क्यापिटल स्ट्रक्चर, we must find weighted average cost of capital in all cases. So as we will find weighted average cost of capital, we get a definite answer of 40%, 40-60. Our ideal भनेको 40-60 रहेछ. Okay, so this is one example EPS को. Second example, second figure mentions again debt ratio to cost of capital. What happens when debt starts to increase? Our weighted average cost of capital decreases, right? It starts to decrease and after one level it increases. Now you can see got you lowest 8.23 and then बढ्यो. You can see weighted average cost of capital is this बिचको line and it decrease and here is minimum and then it increase twice, right? So this is our optimal capital structure where WCC is lowest. Our cost of equity के भयो? It has to increase because risk लिइरहेछ हामीले बढी. Higher the risk, higher the return. Final stock price के भइरहेछ? What did we understand? के understand गर्दाखेरि whenever WCC घट्छ our stock price also increases. So बढ्यो 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 यहाँसम्म बढ्यो, यहाँ घटेको थियो नि त weighted capital is maximum. सबैभन्दा बढी weighted average cost of capital decreased at 40%. Like in the same case in 40% debt and 60% equity, what happened? Our stock price is maximum 22.25 and then it starts to decrease. So this is simply our WCC को relation यसले भन्दैछ, our share price सँग relation यसले भनिरहेछ र EPS को relation यसले भनिरहेछ. So our ultimate goal is to increase share price, तर WCC चाहिँ we can calculate easily, so we choose this method and EPS पनि usually higher हुन्छ in at 40 case. It's slight, little bit deviated, but it's little bit urapara of higher. So any confusion in this? No confusion. Shall I move on to next slide?
No, sir, no confusion. We can move.
Okay, thank you. Let me go to the next one, capital structure theory. Okay, now we have started a very wonderful concept, and now if you are a trader of share market as well, now there are certain things which are going to be mind-boggling for you. At least for me, it was wonderful to understand and learn this particular theory, which we'll be discussing in capital structure theory part within 3-4 slides. Okay, so there was a promulgation of theory in 1958 by Modigliani and Morton Miller. It's not Morton, it's Merton Meller, published what has been called the most influential finance article ever written. Now, you see, this was one of the most flawed, it was one of the worst financial theory ever brought by someone, but it became #1, right? It is like the worst player in football is given Golden Globe award, right? Likewise, theory, it was the worst theory given, but it became #1 and most important theory. Why? Because it told condition what not to do. I know. Just when you perform the worst in exam, you will understand what not to do. I know. Likewise, theory was exactly like सुरुमा यिनीहरूले निकालेको theory 1958 मा was the worst thing, and from there everybody understood that what not to do, and they started to improve in that theory. Fail भयो worst, for example, हाम्रो सबैभन्दा कम MCQ मा 35 आछ हैन, सेक्सन बी बाटै हुनुहुन्छ, I'll not tell the name है, 35 आछ फर एक्जाम्पल. That is something not to do हैन. त्यहाँबाट अब त्यो theory भने 35 भयो. From 35 other theory came up, increasing or improving that theory itself. So यसबाट improve हुँदै गएर 40 45 त्यसरी आको भन्ने we can understand. So for an example, proved under a restrictive set of assumption that firm's value should be unaffected by capital structure. ले के भन्यो भने capital structure तपाई 0% debt हाल्नु, 80% हाल्नु हैन, whatever the debt may be, it may be 100%, whatever the debt equity portion you choose, 20% equity, 0% equity, 100% equity. So whatever the debt equity ratio or structure you choose, it doesn't matter if J choose gareni, it doesn't matter if there are no brokerage cost. #1. 2, no taxes. Taxes the hunja brokerage cost pani you have to pay banks and all. Bankerले brokerage cost नलिकन त तपाईलाई interest दिदैन. So next, bankruptcy cost, no bankruptcy cost हुनै सक्दैन. Bankruptcy त हुन्छ if interest तपाईले interest ल्याउने बित्तिकै कम्पनीमा के हुन्छ, bankruptcy चान्सेसहरु हुन्छ. अनि as if हल्ला फैल्यो, यो कम्पनी बन्द हुन आट्यो भने there are succeeding costs which are going to follow. Fourth, investor can borrow at the same rate as corporation. Absolutely not possible in today's world. Corporations have like huge amount of money चाहिए हुन्छ, like $1 billion चाहिए हुन्छ by the international companies. Like individuals, they just need a small amount of fund. So smaller economies of scale. It also depends on economies of scale. Higher economies of scale भयो भने body less charge हुन्छ. Likewise, all investors, moving on, all investors have same info as management. यो भए त इनसाइडर ट्रेडिङै हुँदैन थियो, आइडियल कन्डिसन भन्छ नि. इनसाइडर ट्रेडिङमा अब एक त अब माल प्र्याक्टिस म्यानेजमेन्टले भनिसकेको हुन्छ सबै आफ्नो यताउति भारदारहरूलाई ल उठाउनु थियो सेयर तपाईहरुलाई नै आएको होला इन्फर्मेसन अलिअलि हैन. सो already if their performance is going to get better, management always has better position than shareholders. Shareholderलाई त लास्टमा त्यो रिपोर्ट आउँछ नि, ए बोर्ड अब राम्रो रिपोर्ट आयो भनेर पैसा हाल्ने, तर बढिसक्यो हुन्छ प्राइस हैन शेयरको. सो लट अफ टाइम इट ह्यापन्स है. सो इनसाइडर ट्रेडिङको पनि भएको थियो तपाईको उसमा अजोड इन्स्योरेन्स अस्ति भएको थियो, बट आई थिंक it is something like elephant's teeth. So despite the fact that some of these assumptions are unrealistic, MM's irrelevance result, now you see MM's irrelevance result is extremely important. Now the 35 जुन राम्रो पर्फर्मेन्स भएन, that is very important. Mistakes is important भन्छ नि, मिस्टेक त भन्न मिलेन हैन, तर like flawed theory भनौं न, flawed theory is really important. Why? Because everybody understood now how to improve this theory. जे ले एज्युम गर्यो नि त्यो हुन्छ भन्ने हो के अरु थ्योरीले. फेरि अरु चाहिँ अब भनौं न इजी वर्ड भयो, कपी पेस्ट गर्ने अनि इम्प्रुभ गर्ने यही थ्योरी. ओके, सो दैट इज इट. सो नेक्स्ट इज इफेक्ट अफ ट्याक्स. अर्को थ्योरी आयो, इफेक्ट अफ ट्याक्स लाग्छ भन्ने कुरा आयो है. सो नेक्स्टमा व्हाट ह्यापन्स, 1958 was criticized harshly, that theory was criticized harshly, and a follow-up was published in 1963. Right? Follow-up came in 1963 after 5 years, and after that 5 years, that relaxed our assumption of corporate taxes. Corporate tax को assumption से relax गर्यो त्यसले. So they recognize that tax code allows corporation to deduct interest payment as an expenses, but dividend, okay, we have been on this learning this. Interest tax deductible, interest is tax deductible, dividend is not, है मैले कति 100 चोटि चाहिँ भन्छु होला यो कुरा, किनभने तपाईहरुलाई 101 चोटि भन्दा नि यु माइट फर्गेट आफ्टर यो हाम्रो बिबी यो सकिन्छ नि प्रोग्राम, अनि भोलि गएर ब्यालेन्स सिट हेरेपछि अनि फेरि झुकिनुहुन्छ के, त्यही भएर आई हैव बीन कन्स्टेन्टली टेलिङ इट. So interest is tax deductible, but dividend is not. Another, so that portion encourages corporation to use debt in their capital structure. त्यही भएर पनि like corporation को धेरै profit छ भने they usually take loans from banks. They usually want to invest in new ventures and take and fund them with bank loans, so that their profit will, their tax will go down, not profit, tax will go down. So next, MM's 1963 work was modified by Melton Miller several years later by bringing effects of personal taxes. He recognized bonds interest payment to attract tax up to 3.9 and further long-term capital gain maximum at 20 until stock is sold and gain are realized. So whatever it tells that to in nutshell, tax generally brings a lot of advantage, and also it brings disadvantage as well. So on balance, return on common stock are taxed at lower rates than return on debt. Okay, so deductibility of the interest favors the use of debt financing. How? So deductibility of tax favors interest. Number one, now is this. Two, the more favorable tax treatment of income from stock lowers the required rate of return. So another very prominent thing which we must understand is that favorable tax treatment from income, like तपाईको इन्कम इन्ट्रेस्ट इन्कमबाट बच्यो भने पैसा बच्यो ट्याक्समा भने नि त्यो रको पैसा चाहिँ इक्विटी होल्डरलाई नै फाइदा हुन्छ भनेको हो के. द रिक्वायर्ड रिटर्न अफ स्टक रिटर्न अल्सो लोवर्स, उनीहरुको रिस्क कम हुन्छ अनि रिटर्न पनि घट्छ, फेभर्स द युज अफ इक्विटी. सो लास्ट, ड्युक, भेरी इम्पोर्टेन्ट वान, ड्युक युनिभर्सिटी प्रोफेसर जोन ग्राहम estimated overall benefit of debt financing. So 7% is told to be the advantage of taking debt financing, like about your rough estimation हो हैन, but also levered र unlevered form मा 7% share value मा फरक हुन्छ भनेर. So there is a research done by Duke University professor John Graham. So it is theories, it might be true, it might not be true, but understanding this also helps us to do analysis. Okay, so this is another one, the effect of potential bankruptcy. Again, as debts are added more, the bankruptcy chances also increases. However, in practice, so there was another assumption, no? Yeah, no taxes. This is one theory. No bankruptcy. Now this is other one. This is the other theory, effect of potential bankruptcy. Now, what does it tell? Tells us MMA irrelevance result also depends on assumption that firms don't go bankrupt, and hence that bankruptcy cost are irrelevant. Past president USA को Donald Trump को तो company bankruptcy भयो भने त world मा bankruptcy हुँदैन भन्न मिल्छ मिल्दैन हैन, हुन सक्छ bankruptcy. If you keep on adding debt, if you keep on adding interest cost burden, है, त्यो मलामी भनेको थियो नि 10 जना र 5 जना, 5 जनाले त मरी बोक्यो है, 5 जनाले हैन अब हटाइदिउँ अझै 1 2 जना भनेर 2 जना भएर बोक्ने भयो. ल बलिया छन् भने त बोक्लान् 2 जनाले, 1 जनाले त कसरी बोकोस्, सक्दैन नि. सो bankruptcy भनेको 1 जना त्यो लडाउने भयो के. So that is bankruptcy. So like that, it can be quite costly. Cost of bankruptcy भनेको there are a lot of hidden costs. This is something we must understand. ए यो बन्द हुने भयो भन्ने बित्तिकै there are a lot of other costs which will follow. For an example, high legal and accounting cost. अब लयरहरुले नि बढी पैसा लिन्छ. अब you know that company नेपालमा खोल्नलाई 50-60,000 रुपैयाँ मा राम्रै कम्पनी खोल्छ, बन्द गर्नलाई 2-3 लाख रुपैयाँ लाग्छ मिनिमम मा, 2-3 लाख रुपैयाँ. And it also takes 6-7 months to close your company. It takes 6 days or 6-7 days to open. खोल्न सजिलो, बन्द गर्न झन् गाह्रो हैन. Legal and accounting expenses, and they have a hard time retaining customers. Customers, they are going to go away because they would not like to deal with डुब्न आटेको नाउमा हैन, राम भन्छ हैन, डुब्न आटेको राम नाउमा कोही चढ्दैन नि, त्यस्तै भिरबाट खस्ने भैँसी भन्ने जस्तै भयो के. रिटेनिङ, इट इज डिफिकल्ट टु रिटेनिङ कस्टमर्स, सप्लायर एन्ड इम्प्लोइजहरु पनि छोडेर जान्छ है कुनै कम्पनी बन्द हुन आँट्यो भने दे विल नट सी फ्युचर इन द कम्पनी एन्ड लाइक गुगल बन्द हुन आँट्यो हैन अब भन्ने थाहा भयो भने गुगलको इम्प्लोइजहरू दे विल शिफ्ट टुवर्ड्स अदर कम्पनी मोरओभर bankruptcy often forces a firm to liquidate assets for less than they would be worth अब उनीहरूको केही बिक्री हुँदैन है आज तपाईले सामान आज नयाँ बाइक किन्नु भयो भने भोलि हाम्रो बजारमा हाल्दा तपाईको प्राइस चाहिँ 50-60 हजार त घटिसकेको हुन्छ सेकेन्ड ह्यान्ड हुने बित्तिकै हैन सो अनि अल्सो अब यसको कहीँ बिक्री भयो भने यसलाई पैसा एकदम चाहिएको छ भन्छ नि त्यो अमेरिका जान आँटेको छु जग्गा बेच्न छ 5 दिनभित्र कम्पनी बन्द हुन आँट्यो मैले फर्निचर बेच्न छ भन्ने बित्तिकै देयर इज समथिङ कल्ड time period also ultimatum as well so because of which when bankruptcy हुँदा usually company मा के हुन्छ त्यो auction market मा जानु पर्छ अनि उनीहरुले auction मा जाँदाखेरि के हुन्छ liquidatorले सेल गर्छ अनि auction मा when they go they usually do not get price as which is worth of that particular asset for example furniture हरु हैन फर्निचर जतिमा उनीहरुले इन्भेस्ट गरेको थियो त्यो त पाउँदैन एकदम लो कस्ट मा मार्केट प्राइस भन्दा लो हुन्छ सो that is also another hidden cost so bankruptcy cost discourage firms from pushing their use of debt to excessive levels so you should limit your interest you should limit your debt भोलि गएर कसैले अब तपाईलाई नि अलिअलि नलेज हुँदैछ होला डेट लिने कि इक्विटी लिने हैन आफ्नो कम्पनीमा so there are two components to bankruptcy cost one probability of their occurrence आउनु नै डेन्जर त भयो तर आयो भने if cost that will be incurred if financial distress arise त्यो आउने कस्ट त छँदैछ तर त्यो सँगसँगै लिएर आउँछ नि अर्थ त्यो पनि डेन्जर भयो है कोरोना त लाग्यो कोरोना हुँदा हुँदै टाइफोइड पनि भयो के एक रे निमोनिया नि भयो दिस इज निमोनिया ओके नेक्स्ट इज ट्रेड अफ थ्योरी ट्रेड अफ भन्ने बित्तिकै हायर द रिस्क अघि हामीले पढ्यो नि हायर द रिस्क हायर द रिटर्न दैट इज ट्रेड अफ नाउ यु सी firms trade off of the tax benefit of debt okay अनि in that case के हुन्छ trade off भन्दाखेरि interest cost ले tax benefit दिन्छ भने interest cost also brings bankruptcy cost right if we add debt to our capital structure it also brings bankruptcy risk right it also brings bankruptcy risk so in these cases what happens there is trade off so let us see the relationship of them as a trade-off. This is leverage or debt, and in this case, this is value of stock. As you will, as debt will increase, what happens? Value of stock shoots for a while, and then it decreases. So like this, it shoots and it decreased. This green line money actual price of stock, right? So value of stock if no financial leverage is used. This is the value of the stock if no any leverage is used 0% debt 100% equity this is the case your case ma 100% equity no any financial leverage is used but as we start to add more debt and यो line छ नि यो mm ले भनेको line हो यो चाहिँ mm ले so mm what does mm say mm says that there is no bankruptcy cost there is no taxation there is no nothing capital structure like फरकै पर्दैन हैन ए क्यापिटल स्ट्रक्चरले प्राइसलाई फरकै पार्दैन भनेछ उले हैन सो के हुन्छ तपाईको लाइन इज स्ट्रेट लाइन बट इन अदर केसेस व्हाट ह्यापन्स एज प्राइस सुरुमा बढ्छ डेट हुने बित्तिकै तर पछि घट्छ यो बढेको किन बढेको बिकज अफ एडभान्टेज गिवन बाइ इन्ट्रेस्ट दिस इज द एडभान्टेज गिवन बाइ इन्ट्रेस्ट घटेको किन risk associated with bankruptcy cost and this is the ideal situation D2 is the optimal capital structure in this case what happens marginal tax shelter benefit marginal means one point or 1 rupee extra भनेको marginal भनेको so marginal tax shelter benefit is equal to marginal bankruptcy related cost marginal tax shelter benefit is equal to marginal bankruptcy related cost okay this is the ideal position D2 right D1 is the threshold where bankruptcy cost becomes material D1 बाट बल्ल यहाँबाट bankruptcy cost चाहिँ material हुन थाल्छ because if you take 10% debt 20% debt usually खासै पर्दैन कम्पनीलाई because maybe company has enough EBIT to cover it तर अब 40 50 बढाउँदै गएपछि एउटा लेभल हुन्छ नि so this is that level where bankruptcy cost will start to come into play. सुरुमै 0 बाट आउँछ आउँदैन, एउटा certain level पछि आउँछ, right? D1 is the point where bankruptcy cost is minimal. This one D1, bankruptcy cost is minimal at D1, and D2 is the point where stock price is maximum. This is our objective. We want to reach here when stock price is maximum. So any confusion in this? Any confusion in this, please let me know. Otherwise, let me move on to next one.
No confusion, sir.
Okay. Okay, the next one is signaling theory. Now, this is something I was telling you earlier. One of the most fascinating thing I saw in this chapter, and it's really important, I think, for you to understand as well. If you are investing or if you are a trader of share market, or again, it is important for each one of you. Signaling theory, we see signals all around, as this tell, you know, and this is also one kind of theory. It may be true, it may not be true, but something we must understand to understand the overall structure. So let us see. Intel, Microsoft, these kind of big companies usually use far less debt than theory suggests. Theory le bhन्छ नि त्यो debt बढाउँदै गएपछि एउटा structure, you will reach the maximum share price. But usually what happens? Intel, Microsoft, these kind of company usually they do not take much debt because they finance themselves with equity and self-generated revenue. Their revenue is huge, and their revenue is in so much of a scale that they do not need money from outside. They might have huge general reserve, right? So these are some of the examples where the theory is at one side, but in practice, usually big companies might not have huge amount of debt. Second, assumed investor and manager alike have same information, but it doesn't happen in real life. Usually managers usually have better information. I think you have got it. There are two kinds of information. One is systematic, and another is symmetric and asymmetric. Asymmetric and symmetric. Symmetric means everybody have identical information. Nobel's chairman Vinod Chaudhary and you, both of you, have same kind of information. That is symmetric information. Asymmetric information, Vinod Chaudhary and you do not have same kind of information. In real life, always Vinod Chaudhary usually have better information than shareholders, someone who is a stakeholder but who is not into management. So as in real life, we usually have asymmetric information. So next one, let us take a condition A. Now this is very important. Now let us take a consider A. Form F ma ke bhayo, form F ma चाहिँ new R&D labs established हुन लागेको छ. New R&D labs हुन आँटेको छ अनि they have discovered a no patentable cure for common cold. Common cold को क्योर हुँदैन हैन, रुगा लाग्यो भने दबाई खाए नि 6 दिन, दबाई नखाए नि 6 दिन भन्छ हैन. तर यो फर्म एफ ले चाहिँ अब रुगाको औषधि ल्याएछ. यो एक डोज खाने बित्तिकै रुगा चैट. त्यो थाहा हुने बित्तिकै के भयो, म्यानेजमेन्टले थाहा पायो, उसले त शेयर किन्न थाल्छ किनभने पब्लिकमा हुन्छ. And also firm, what would firm want to do? Firm knows that as they have done the breakthrough, as they have done the breakthrough, sorry. Okay, as they have done the breakthrough, what happens is that share price, the value of shares are going to increase in coming days. The company's valuation is going to boom, and because of which firm would want to buy its share back. अहिले नै त्यो रिलिज गर्नु भन्दा अगाडि firm would want to buy its shareholder back because they want to reduce equity and increase debt. Why? Equity को value यसै पनि बढिरहेको छ. So खाने मान्छे कम भयो भने राम्रो भनेर they want to buy back. है. So we would expect firm to avoid selling stock. They will not sell stock IPO नि आउँदैन, FPO नि आउँदैन, राइट शेयर नि आउँदैन, केही नि आउँदैन. यो big breakthrough is going to happen because market is going to boom आफै पनि. अनि मार्केट बुम हुने बित्तिकै युजुअली तपाईको शेयर होल्डर्सहरुले के हुन्छ इन्ट्रेस्ट होल्डर्स ब्याङ्क्सहरुले यतिकै पैसा दिइहाल्छ नि हैन. If they will go to Nobel Bank, हाम्रो यस्तो कमन गोल्डको औषधि आउन आँटेछ, नोबेलले लु तपाईलाई 100 crores भनेर दिइहाल्छ नि पैसा हैन. सो प्रब्लमै हुन्न. So likewise they would love to have debt financing. They would like to increase debt and decrease equity. Why? Debt को त fixed हुन्छ cost, equity को fixed हुँदैन. Equity you have to pay like whatever the profit you make हैन, return जति नै हुन सक्छ. So they would like to decrease. Second condition, now this is something which is prevalent in Nepalese market pani. Second condition, now firm has information that new orders are off, their sales have sharply decreased. Now what happens? Kina competitor has installed new technology. Let us take an example, hypothetical example of course. CG internet came up, WorldLink को share चाहिँ WorldLink in stock market, so they are going to come in the stock market है बिस्तारै आउनु होला. WorldLink propose पनि गरेको थियो अस्ति. So WorldLink might come in share market. So whatever, let us assume both are in stock market. So for an example, CG नयाँ competitor is in the market because of which WorldLink's sale is going to decrease. त्यसले गर्दा के हुन्छ? Share price usually घट्छ, share value घट्छ, त्यसको market share घट्छ, business घट्छ, everything goes down. Management ला अगाडि नै थाहा भयो. Now what would management want to do? They would want to increase its number of shares before release of this information. Okay now, why? Because they have to pay fixed amount of interest, 10% भयो नि interest holders like they have to pay 10% anyway. तर equity holders like they do not have to pay anything. If there is loss, भारी दिने त मान्छे छ नि, लस भयो नि, सो ल्याउ बोकम यिनीहरुलाई भनेर अझै मान्छेलाई they bring more people in है. So what happens? Because the competitor has installed new technology that improve the quality of its product, a firm would want to finance with stock. Which would mean bringing new investors to share the losses. Now, in nutshell, announcement of stock offering is generally taken as signal that the firm's prospects, as seen by management, are not bright. Very important one, very applicable by the whenever there is any new prospect, share market गर्छ, IPO, FPO, right share जे पनि आए पनि marketले correction लिन्छ. Why? Because share के assume गरिन्छ भने management is not seeing its prospects really high भन्ने कुरा हुन्छ के. So it's not true for every situation, but it's theory, signaling theory भन्छ है. So more often now when firm announces a new stock offering, more than often then the price of stock will decline. Offer गर्ने बित्तिकै किन offer गर्यो? पक्कै के bad news छ, बोकाउन खोजिरहेछ shareholderहरुलाई. So maybe बेचम भनेर people starts to sell its shares. So any confusion in this? This is a star. So if you do not have any confusion, shall I move on, or do you have any confusion? So waiting for your answer, class.
So you can move on.
Yes, Ratna, you were telling something?
No, sir.
Okay. So let me, shall I move on?
Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, signaling theory again. Chapter 1, we stated conflict. Yes, there is a conflict between manager and shareholders because they might have different goals. Shareholder want to increase its share and manager want to increase their paycheck, right? So manager often use excess cash. Now what happens is that this is also a really interesting analogy. If कम्पनीमा होइन कम्पनीमा एक्सेस क्यास एक्सेस प्रफिटहरू भयो भने म्यानेजरले चाहिँ पुरा जेट प्लेनहरू किन्ने अनि एकदम पोस्ट अफिस बनाउने अनि तपाईँको एक्स्ट्राभेगेन्ट एक्सपेन्डिचर गर्ने उनीहरूको बेनिफिटमा उनीहरूको बेनिफिटहरू बढाउने गर्छ क्या सो सेयर होल्डरले तल आउनलाई दिस इज अल्सो इम्पोर्टेन्ट कन्सेप्ट सेयर होल्डरले तह लाउनलाई होइन म्यानेजरहरूलाई डेट बोकाउँछ क्या डेट किन बोकाउने डेट बोकाउने बित्तिकै के हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि त्यो फियर अफ लिक्विडेसन त छँदै हुन्छ एउटा ठाउँमा नेक्स्ट भनेको प्रफिटमा नि पर्फर्मेन्समा उसले अलिकति घटाइदिन्छ कि सो त्यो एक्सेस क्यास चाहिँ एब्जर्भ गरिदिन्छ इन्ट्रेस्टले सो बिकज अफ विच म्यानेजरलाई त्यो एक्स्ट्रा क्यासै हुँदैन यो एक्स्ट्राभेगेन्ट एक्सपेन्डिचरहरू गर्नलाई सो त्यो भएर नि युजली म्यानेजरहरूले क्रुसल डिसिजन लिँदा डेटहरू लिइरहेको हुन्छ By contrast, managers with more limited free cash flow are less able to make wasteful expenditures. It is really interesting to know. So higher debt service requirement will force managers to become more disciplined. उनीहरूलाई डिसिप्लिनमा गराउनलाई नि shareholdersले what do? They add debt to the capital structure. If debt is not serviced as required, the firm will be forced into bankruptcy, in which case its manager would lose their job. Performance राम्रो नहुन सक्ला EBITहरू है EPS and all. So that in that case, what happens? Managers might lose their job. Therefore, a manager is less likely to buy expensive corporate jet if the firm has a large debt service requirement. So this is next way to think about as well. Okay.
सकलका ट्याक्सेसनको लागि पनि ट्याक्सेसन अभोइड गर्न अथवा ट्याक्स इन्भिजनको कुरामा पनि अब खर्चै गर्छ होइन र त्यसरी नै गर्ने अभोइड गरेर हुन्छ देख्छु मैले जुन
गर्छ नि ट्याक्स एभोइड गर्न होइन दिस इज नट लाइक यु क्यानट टेल इट एज अब एभोइड होइन आई अन्डरस्ट्यान्ड युर लाइक
अलिकति चाहिँ ऊ हाम्रो मोर ट्याक्स इन्भेजन भन्ने अलि मिल्दैन बाई लुप होलै गरेपछि त
या अब लुप होल पनि भन्न मिल्दैन यसलाई दिस इज समथिङ विच इज अन्डरस्ट्यान्डेबल सबैतिर अनि दिस इज समथिङ विच इज युज बाई बिजनेसम्यान्स के अल अराउन्ड द वर्ल्ड अब तपाईँले देख्नुभयो भने के हुन्छ नेपालमा त झन् बढी युज हुन्छ तपाईँको नेपाल इज एडभान्स्ड यो टर्म्समा कसरी भन्नुहुन्छ भने आफ्नो पैसा नहाल्ने होइन तपाईँको आफ्नो पैसा चाहिँ 6% 10% हाल्ने अनि ब्याङ्कलाई 90 अनि 80 हाल्न लाउने कि 90% 80% हाल्न लाउने कि पैसा यस्तो कन्सेप्टहरू धेरै छ नेपालमा अनि यो 90-80 वाइ भन्दाखेरि उनीहरूको त्यही इन्ट्रेस्ट क्यापिटलाइज हुन्छ इन्ट्रेस्ट उनीहरूले इन्ट्रेस्ट चाहिँ तपाईँको दे क्यान लाइक डिड्युस ट्याक्स होइन सर्टेन टर्म्समा त्यही भएर यो प्लानिङ गर्छ अनि नगरे पनि हामी एज अ पर्सनल है हामीले जसरी यो कन्सेप्टहरू पढिरहेछौँ अब तपाईँहरू भोलि अब ठुलो कम्पनीको सेयर होल्डर हुनुभयो म्यानेजरहरू छाडा भयो फर इक्जाम्पल म्यानेजरले अब जेट प्लेन किनौँ भनेर बोर्डमा हामीलाई अब गाह्रो भयो यताउति ट्राभल गर्न जेट प्लेन किनौँ भनेर आयो भने मेबी यु एज अ सेयर होल्डर अर चेयरम्यान अफ बोर्ड यु हेभ टु प्रपोज डेट हालौँ भनेर वाइ डेट हाल्ने नयाँ प्रोजेक्टमा इन्भेस्ट गर्ने तर इक्विटी रेज नगर्ने डेटबाट लिने वाइ म्यानेजर बिग्रिरहेछ नि त होइन म्यानेजरले अब आफ्नो पर्फर्मेन्स राम्रो भयो मेरो पर्फर्मेन्स मलाई जेट प्लेन चाहियो भन्न थाल्यो सो उसलाई अलिकति डिसिप्लिन गराउनलाई एउटा कन्सेप्ट त्यो भयो अनि एज टु आन्सर युर क्वेसन प्रवीण नेपालमा युज गर्छ अनि ट्याक्स प्लानिङको लागि नि धेरै युज हुन्छ इन्ट्रेस्ट अनि एउटा हाम्रो कन्सेप्ट पनि छ नि नेपाली समाजमा अब हाम्रो बाबा मम्मीहरूले त खासै नलिनु लोन नलिनु भन्नुहुन्छ किन यी डिसिप्लिन त बनाउँछ लोनले तर चिन्ता हुन्छ नि त एभ्री टाइम युआर थिङ्किङ अबाउट मनी के एभ्री टाइम युआर थिङ्किङ अबाउट मनी सो इफ यु टेक लोन्स है आजको डेटमा तपाईँले लोन लिने र नलिएकोमा ठ्याक्कै फरक पर्छ के द वे यु लुक अपन यर बिजनेस त्यही भएर almost all the companies in the world, almost all the companies, more than 90% use debt financing. Very important point, debt financing, to save taxes as well and to also bring you in discipline and all. So is it okay, Praveen, or do you have any other questions?
No, sir. No. Thank you. I highly appreciate it.
Now I think your spectacles of looking into debt and equity, I think it's changing, right? अब अर्को भनेको पेकिङ अर्डर हाइपोथेसिस है. पेकिङ अर्डर भनेको लाइक ऱ्याङ्किङ भन्छ के, ऱ्याङ्किङ 1, ऱ्याङ्किङ 2, ऱ्याङ्किङ 3, ऱ्याङ्किङ 4, यसरी पेकिङ अर्डर भनेको. So it's kind of ranking. For an example, there are let us take 4 sources of our financing. First, spontaneous credit. Spontaneous credit means now in business you can see usually we take credit from suppliers, credit of 3 months, credit of 6 months. They usually, that is practice in trade, right? That is the most spontaneous or most low cost bearing credit, right? Because they usually do not charge you any interest. Second, retained earning. Tapaisanga retained earning is there already in your business internally. And this is retained earning is something which is used by Google and Microsoft and these kind of big companies. They finance themselves with retained earning, and their debt is usually low. And second, retained earning ko cost hudaina. You might argue that, sir, there might be opportunity cost huna sakcha sir bhanna saknuhola. Yes, there is opportunity cost, but there is no direct cost implication. Debt, there is fixed cost 10%, 8%, and bank answer or manche answer or lender answer, right? Finally, common stock unlimited, जति नै हो cost unlimited, जति तपाईको आयो त्यति हो cost भनेपछि सबैभन्दा महँगो के हुँदो रहेछ? इक्विटी, त्यसपछि डेट, त्यसपछि रिटेन अर्निङ, त्यसपछि क्रेडिट. सबैभन्दा फाइदा त क्रेडिटै लिएको हो हैन, आफ्नो सप्लायरलाई अझै बढी क्रेडिट दिनु 3 महिना 4 महिना भन्ने. So this is pecking order according to this hypothesis. Right? First, give priority your creditor, then retain earning, then debt, and then finally equity. Another factor that may influence capital is the idea that manager have a preferred pecking order, which it comes from raising capital, and then pecking order affects capital structure decision. कहाँबाट पैसा लिने भनेको pecking order ले फरक पर्ने भयो. Why to follow this order? First, no floating cost are incurred. त्यही कुरा भयो. Cost कम हुन्छ सबैभन्दा यसमा कम, यसमा अलि बढी, यसमा unlimited. However, floating costs are relatively low when issuing new debt, but in terms of equity, it's really high. Last, pecking order is logical and it can influence a firm's capital structure, although there is still some debate about its relative importance. There is always debate in everything, and finance especially. So this is it. यो त अब तपाईहरुले windows of opportunity भन्छ है, windows of opportunity. What you should do? Stock price, intrinsic value, stock of value भन्दा stock price कम भयो भने किन्ने, stock price intrinsic value भन्दा बढी भयो भने बेच्ने, right? कम्पनीले के गर्छ? When stock price is less than intrinsic value of stock, they buy back its shares. Under value भएको बेला they want to buy back its shares, right? And they want to raise fund from debt. But second case, when stock price is high, market is overvalued, अहिलेको जस्तो, then intrinsic value of stock, then company would want to raise fund from market because they are going to get huge amount of money from the market, right? Stock price एकदम high छ. For an example, Nobel Bank को अहिले share कति छ? 1400 something, right? If Nobel Bank wants to have fund, अस्ति 1200 थियो, I think before 1 month, अहिले 1400 छ. So it would love to have raise fund in the price of, at the price of 1400, isn't it? Rather than 1200, because it can raise huge amount of money from market. Given that it is going to give similar amount of number of shares. यसलाई नि 1000 कितै दिन्थ्यो होला, यसलाई नि 1000 कितै दिन्थ्यो होला. तर अहिले चाहिँ 1400 पायो, पहिला चाहिँ 1200 रुपैयाँ पाउँथ्यो. So in second case, stock price जब high हुन्छ, then firm would want to issue new equity. So a study by Malcolm and Jeffrey Wagler documents that many companies take advantage of these windows of opportunity, and they argue these attempts to time the market have a profound effect on these companies' capital structure. Very, very important concept, very important one. So whenever any company is going to take loan, news आउनु आयो भने कतैतिर पढ्नु होला है, अब त इन्ट्रेस्टिङ हुन्छ नि. सो नयाँ प्रोजेक्टको लागि लोन लिएर हुन्छ होइन, इक्विटी रेज गर्यो भने, डेट रेज गर्यो भने होइन. नाउ आई थिङ्क दिज विन्डोज आर ओपन फर युर एनालिसिस. अब चाहिँ तपाईँहरूले बुझ्नुपर्ने हो के गर्न खोजिरहेको छ, कति पर्सेन्टमा लियो, कति के हो होइन, वाट इज द कस्ट अफ डेट, वाट इज द कस्ट अफ इक्विटी, दिस थिङ्स चाहिँ प्ले गर्नु है. सो आई थिङ्क वी हेभ कम टु एन एन्ड अफ क्लास. स्लाइड नम्बर चाहिँ लेख्नु पऱ्यो, जहिले कन्फ्युज भइरह है. Any confusion? I'm waiting for you to, like, you want to add something regarding today's concept, or if you want to again learn something, you want to ask me a question, please let me know. Slide number 25. So in multiple choice question examination, I was hoping for section B to ace it as well and B give through the competition to section A, but my expectation was shattered because both the toppers are from section A, highest rankers. It's the highest marks is 85, and both from section A. So at least near 85 भएको भए नि section B मा हुनुहुन्छ bright. Yes, there are few who have performed good, really well, but it's not to that expectation, right, of the competition and all. त्यो स्कलरसिप्सहरू आउँछ नि, त्यो सेक्सन ए र बीलाई छुट्टै आउने, अलग अलग आउने हो कि तपाईँको सेक्सन बीलाई चाहिँ सँगै आउने हो. अस्ति एउटा स्कलरसिप प्रोग्राम एनाउन्स गर्दै हुनुहुन्थ्यो नि म्यामहरूले.
सँगै आउने हो हजुर,
सँगै हुने हो ए. ओके, please try to yes, yeah,
ओके सर.
please try to ace as well. अब I think अलिकति मध्ये 5% एक्स्ट्रा गर्नु भयो भने यु क्यान डु के. त्यो एउटा हुन्छ नि, एउटा सर्टेन लेभलसम्म पुग्न गाह्रो हुन्छ, अनि अलिकति आई थिङ्क द्याट अलिकति इज मिसिङ. अनि आई वुड लाइक टु इन्करेज ब्राइट स्टुडेन्ट्स अफ सेक्सन बी एज वेल टु कम टु द्याट कम्पिटिसन एज वेल. एटलिस्ट कम्पिटिसन भन्दा नि इफ यु अन्डरस्ट्यान्ड वेल आई थिङ्क यु क्यान स्कोर ग्रेट के. अनि क्लासमा अलिकति मजाले बुझिदिनु, अनि बरु च्यालेन्जिङ क्वेसनहरू सोध्नु, मलाई आएन भने आई कम ब्याक विथ एन्सर्स, बरु रिसर्च गरेर होइन. अनि सो लाइकवाइज है.
सर रिगार्डिङ द
यस
क्युरिज अफ माइन्ड अफ स्टडिज, हिजो मैले सोधेको थिएँ नि हजुरलाई, टेक्स्ट गरे जस्तो लाग्थ्यो. सर हाम्रो सेमी एनुअल्ली के नेपालमा पपुलर छैन हो?
हजुर हजुर,
सेमी एनुअल्ली
सेमी एनुअल रिपोर्ट
हजुर, भने एनुअल्ली जस्तै हाम्रो जुन चाहिँ गरिन्छ नि एकाउन्टिङ सिस्टम छ नि जुन चाहिँ हाम्रो जस्तै क्वार्टरली त भइरहेको हुन्छ. आई थिङ्क तपाईँले त्यो पनि हो डेट फर्मेट पनि करेक्ट फर्मेटै भनिदिनु भएको थियो होइन, कन्फर्म गरिदिनु भएको थियो. जस्तो हाम्रो सेमी एनुअल्लीमा के गर्ने बेलामा चाहिँ जस्तै अब हाम्रो असारमा हुन्छ हो, असार असोज अनि हाम्रो पुस चैतमा हो नि. तब जस्तो असारको हेऱ्यो भने त हाम्रो त उसमा असार पौषमा हो बुझाउनु पर्ने होइन र?
यस्तो हुन्छ यहाँ पौषमा चाहिँ ट्याक्स अनुसारले बुझाउने, असोज हो अनि एक्सटेन्सन 3 मन्थ्स हो. असोजको फेरि 3 मन्थ्स एक्सटेन्सन लिएर पौषसम्म बुझाउन मिल्छ. अनि सेमी एनुअल रिपोर्टहरू दिने खासै चलन छैन क्या प्रवीण नेपालमा. किन भन्दाखेरि दुईटा क्वार्टर जोड्ने बित्तिकै सेमी एनुअल भयो नि त होइन. सो देयर इज one quarter अनि सेकेन्ड क्वार्टर भन्ने बित्तिकै इफ यु एड बोथ देन यु गेट युर सेमी एनुअल. अनि इफ यु एड त्यो चैत एन्ड र असार एन्डको देन यु गेट युर सेमी एनुअल उतापट्टिको होइन, पुसदेखि असारसम्मको. अब एउटा चाहिँ
इट्स लाइक एज हाम्रो एज क्यालकुलेसन गर्छ नि, माइनस गऱ्यो प्लस गऱ्यो भने जस्तो मात्र भइदियो क्या त्यो चाहिँ. अनि त्यसले गर्दा ठ्याक्कै सेमी एनुअल्ली भन्दा बित्तिकै हाम्रो इभन क्यालकुलेसनहरूमा छ नि कतिपय कुराहरूमा क्यालकुलेसन म्याथमेटिकली त पोसिबल भयो, तर रियल लाइफमा के अरे एप्लिकेबल चाहिँ अलिकति पोसिबलै हुन्छ हामी एप्लाई गर्ने बेलामा. नि असारमै गऱ्यो हो तपाईँको के अरे असार के अरे असोज पुस चैत भन्छ असारमा गरेको त असोजको एन्डमा गर्नु पर्यो। असोजको लागि त फेरि पौष हो नि त तपाईँको सेमी एनुअली चाहिँ होइन।
या अब के को समेसन भन्नुभयो तपाईँले, मैले बुझिनँ।
जस्तो हाम्रो एक न्युमेरिकल सुन्नु भएको थियो नि पुरानो कति एक्सर्साइजहरूमा रेफरेन्समा चाहिँ त्यो सेमी एनुअलीको कुरा नि झिकाएर छ कि त्यहाँ क्यालकुलेसनको कुरामा चाहिँ। अनि त्यस्तो कुरामा क्यालकुलेसन जस्तो मैले एज अ नेपाललाई उ गरेर चाहिँ नेपालको फिजिकल क्यालेन्डरलाई युज गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ क्यालकुलेसनमा चाहिँ तपाईँको